Solo explorando. Otra mano. Ya tiene Fernando Mejía aquí con Telefónica, ya es uno de nuestros clientes en la audiencia, se llama Fernando Mejía. Él tiene conocimiento sobre los productos, pero solo quería ver los demás. Bueno, si hay preguntas, le voy a introducir a Mark Beckett para que dé la presentación. Pase.
Okay.
Your turn.
Okay. Buenos días. Buenas tardes. Hace 30 años que estudiaba español en la escuela y no me recuerdo mucho. Entonces, necesito hablar en inglés. The good news is that the slides are in Spanish, so hopefully it'll be a little easier to follow what I'm saying. But I have my English cheat notes here. So I was going to talk about several different things. The first was just to give an introduction into what the DNS is and what DNSSEC is. But Mauricio has done such a fine job of that this morning that I can be very brief on that topic. I think instead I will spend more time talking about what are some of the challenges that organizations have in deploying DNSSEC. Things that you need to think about when you're deploying DNSSEC. And then I'll talk a little bit about the types of solutions that are available to organizations who want to deploy it. Mauricio talked about some open source solutions, that's one. There are some others as well. We'll talk about different types of solutions. And then finally, I'll give a little bit of information about Secure64 and its products. So as Mauricio already said, the DNS is very important. Very important. It underlies everything that we do just about on the internet. Web visits, email communications, more and more voice communications. These all begin with DNS lookups. And there are really two problems, and we've talked a little bit about those problems this morning. There are really two problems with regard to the security of the DNS. And one of those problems is the vulnerability of DNS to attack. Because if we can take the DNS out, we can effectively shut off communications to web servers, to email servers, and so forth. And the second problem, from a security standpoint, is ensuring that we can trust the information that we get back from the DNS. Again, Mauricio talked a lot about these problems this morning. So I would like to spend just a moment on the DDoS problem. Because if we can take the DNS offline, we can shut down communications. And really there are a couple of different types of attacks that, with regard to the DNS, that we see happening on the internet today. In the first case, if an attacker attacks an authoritative server, let's suppose you are a bank or a government agency, or if you are a hosting provider for many clients, and if someone can attack your authoritative DNS and take it offline, they can effectively make your domain or your customers' domains unreachable. So no email, no internet, no nothing. An attacker can also attack the resolver side, the caching side of the DNS. Typically, these caching servers are inside of our ISPs. And if they can take that DNS server down by bombarding it with too many queries, they can take all of the customers offline for that ISP. So it's bad no matter how you look at it. If you're a domain owner, it's bad if they attack your authoritative server. If you're an ISP, it's bad if they attack your resolver. And then on the authentication side, again, Mauricio spoke at length about this, we have the problem that an attacker can attack the authoritative server and compromise its information. It can attack a caching server and try to cache poison that caching server and hijack a domain. It could conduct a man-in-the-middle attack on one of the network connections and try to intercept the response and forge the answer and hijack the domain. And if an attacker is successful in doing one of those things, he can redirect a client from www.mybank.com.co to some other attacker-controlled website that looks just like my bank, but isn't. So this is, of course, why we are here talking about DNSSEC today. Again, we're using digital signatures, and I will go quickly over this slide since we talked about it quite a bit in the morning. We're using digital signatures and attaching those digital signatures to the replies from the authoritative servers. Those digital signatures can then be checked by the resolver and validated before an answer is returned to the client. And if the answer does not validate properly, the resolver or the caching server throws the answer away. It cannot be trusted. That's what DNSSEC is doing for us in this environment. Hay preguntas? Okay. So much for review. So now I'd like to talk about the things that your organization might need to think about if you're considering deploying DNSSEC. I think you've gotten a feel from the speakers this morning that DNSSEC is a bit complicated. It takes a while to learn what it is. It takes longer to learn how to deploy it. And that is, there's a lot of material on the internet written about DNSSEC, so finding the information is not the problem. But understanding it and understanding how to apply it and understanding how to use the tools that are available can be a challenge. But beyond that, there are also other challenges that you might not think of immediately. So, for example, how do we keep the keys secure that we're using to sign our domains? Because DNSSEC is only as good as the security that we provide to those private keys. And how do we recover? Somebody mentioned, an earthquake. How do we recover? Mauricio mentioned an earthquake. Yeah. Exactly. So how do we recover from a disaster so that we can ensure that our domains remain signed? They don't expire. For some people, especially for service providers who might be signing for lots of clients, we have to think about the scalability of the solution, because signing using cryptography is computationally expensive. And so we have to ask the question, do we have enough horsepower in our signing infrastructure to handle the load that we're going to put on our servers to sign all these domains? And then finally, we need to think about auditability. How do I know, do I have an audit trail of when I signed the domain and who did what to this domain? So if there is a problem, I have an audit trail to look back at and understand what happened. So let me just talk a moment about the complexity. I think a lot of this will make sense after the morning presentations. Today in the DNS, many people just set it up once, they put the server in a closet somewhere, and they don't have to touch it again, maybe for weeks or months or even years sometimes. This is not true with DNSSEC. With DNSSEC, we must always be touching that server and doing something with it in order for those signatures to remain valid. So we set it up once, we sign, we generate our keys, we sign our zones, and we publish that information to the internet. We do that once.